Oh, hey everyone. Welcome back to the Flat Thunder channel. If you're just tuning in, my name's Andy, and today we're taking a look at this big, beautiful green trailer queen. This is a 1995 Ford F150, and it's compliments of my friendly neighbor. He had to stop driving this truck because it has some mechanical problems and some issues, mostly pertaining to rust and possibly some running issues. I'm not 100% sure. I know it was running and he was using it as his daily driver, but then he stopped and purchased a different vehicle. That was probably about a year or so ago, and since then it's been sitting. So he was nice enough to give me this big, beautiful green machine for parts for the channel icon truck. This truck has a 351 Windsor in it. It's 4x4, and it has AOD transmission, so it has an automatic overdrive transmission. Everything on this truck, the drive line, the engine, the front rear differentials, are all interchangeable to the channel icon truck, which is a 1983 Ford F150, and this is a 1995. It does have a transmission with an overdrive, whereas the channel icon truck only has a C6, so it could be a potential upgrade for the old truck if we wanted to install one with overdrive. Let's take a look around this old girl, see what we can save off of it. She's a little rusty. She's got some real nice tires on her. That's going to go in the channel icon truck because the flatbed, aka Flat Thunder, has some really bad tires. These will be real nice. This door is actually pretty nice for as rusty as this truck is. So I think somebody could actually use that door on one of their project vehicles. Has a typical cancer in the fender wells. That's where they usually rust out. But if we look underneath here, a little bit bigger of a problem. Yeah, this area here is supposed to be the spring hanger for the front on the driver's side, but if you look, the frame's really rusted and the spring hanger is no more. The leaf spring's still there, but the spring hanger, or what's left of it, is pushing on the bottom of the bed. That's pretty typical. When the spring hanger will break off, that hole in the frame is huge. I haven't seen too many like that, but if the spring hanger would break, the leaf springs will go up and push in the bottom of the bed. So that's pretty common for older, really rusty trucks. Zoom out here. That right there would be why the truck frame is sitting kind of like this, and that's all because of that front spring perch or leaf spring hanger is broken. Got obvious rust there. Reese hitch, it's rusty. This shackle's pretty rusty. If we move up the driver's side of the frame here, the bottom of the cab actually looks, I mean, way better than I thought it would. This area in here just has light surface rust, but when you get up to the front rubber mount, it's rusted through. That's the worst part. Obviously you got some cosmetic damage here, but the whole underside in this region looks really good. I'm surprising it looks that good. There's the cab mount. It's pushed through right there. It shouldn't be up like that. So this is bad on the cab. The rims aren't my favorite, but we're probably just going to run these rims and tires on the channel icon truck until these tires are bad and we need new ones. Let's see, what size are they? Okay, here we go. They are 265/75 15s, which are basically the same as 31 1050s. It's just the metric designation. Coming in on the passenger side here, the door's dented in. Somebody obviously hit the truck there or ran into something, and the step bumper smushed. 2 caddies still. Big money for all of the crackhead scrappers. So we'll obviously cut those off and take those to a special section of the recycling center. 4x4 has the electronic actuator, so it's push button. This spring perch on the passenger side, it's actually still attached. But if you look at the here, yeah, that hole is not supposed to be there. So, or this hole. So there's nothing left of this hanger either. It's just basically these little short ears from here to here. This whole bottom is supposed to be solid. The goal here is to dismantle this entire truck. Keep only the important parts that are usable for spare parts for the channel icon truck, the flatbed, aka Flat Thunder. So once we get all those usable parts off of there, the rest of it's going to go to the recycling center. But before we do that, I would like to test it to see if we can get it to run or not. So we're actually going to do a will she start on this. I need to do the typical checks, the oil, etc., make sure everything's good. Here's a loud piece of crap. Need to go through and do the typical checks on this before we fire it up. But I also think I'm going to jack it up and test the 4x4, see if the 4x4 is working, see if the drive line works. With the frame that rusty, I don't want to risk taking this thing down the road. I just want to test it to see in general, does the engine run, does the transmission operate in forward and reverse and maybe shift gears, and does the 4x4 work. So we'll test all those systems and then we'll start dismantling her. Take a gander at this hood. I mean, if you needed a hood, this would be a really nice hood for a 1995 vintage F150. I mean, you gotta look past the bird poop, but yeah, you could probably buff some of the paint off on this and make it look really nice again. Even the inside isn't even that rusty. Welcome into the engine compartment here. This is like as I mentioned earlier, this is a fuel injected 351 Windsor. Just pulled the battery charger on it. Off of it. We had it on the trickle charger overnight. Supposedly has a newer alternator on it that was replaced not too long ago, and a newer starter hiding out down there. I didn't look at that in great detail, but all those components should fit on the flatbed. As I mentioned earlier, this is a 351 5.8 liter V8 fuel injected. Take a little look see at the engine oil here, and it's barely on the tip of the dipstick. I don't know if you can see that, barely on the tip of the dipstick. I believe the previous owner said that it would use oil or leak oil. Not for sure which one. I do believe that the oil pan is really rusty, so I wouldn't be surprised if the oil pan has a rust hole in it. Yeah, there's hardly any, if any, on the tip of the dipstick, so definitely want to put some oil in this before we try to run it. We had a funnel conveniently placed here in the engine compartment. I think that means it used oil. And I have this old can of 5W30, nothing I operate uses this grate anymore. So hopefully we don't have to put a bunch of money in new motor oil just to test this. I probably didn't even get it on the dipstick. I found 3 of these old cans of Valvoline. The can is so old, the can started to discolor in the cabinet. It's actually starting to turn like brownish yellow, probably from the other chemicals that were in the cabinet. But for some reason I stopped liking Valvoline and I never used it. So this will be good for this, because all this oil is probably going to drain out of this engine and end up on the trailer or in a catch pan. I think it's probably going to run for us. Whether or not it knocks like a bag of hammers, I don't know. Alright, I don't have any more of that Valvoline, so we're going to call that good. Added almost 4 quarts. All my other oil is stuff that I use, so I don't want to waste it. Alright, here we are inside. It's got the same interior as my 1995 F150 had. Nice gray. Now I didn't have this part, I had a 60/40. This is the cool center bench seat that turns into an armrest. I always like that. Same steering wheel. Now this does have dual fuel tanks. 234,389 miles. She can still go a couple more. Oh! Uh-oh. Well, the fuel gauge is reading 0. Let's try the rear fuel tank. Watch those fuel lines up there, see if they move when I cycle the key. Yeah, I don't know if you could see the fuel lines move or not, but I switched it to the rear tank and it sounded much more promising. You get a definite like whirling, like purr, and it sounds more like the rear fuel tank is the rear fuel pump is working, and the front tank fuel pump may not be working anymore. Moment of truth, folks. We're gonna see if this bad boy will run. Woohoo! She's doing it. That K&N air filter is a little noisy, but she's doing it. No hammers. Sounds pretty dang good. Woohoo! Yeah! Well, you can't stop a Ford. She goes in all the gears. Let's try 4x4. Holy crap, the 4x4 works. Let's try low range. Oh, I just heard it shift. Oh! Make sure I step on the brake a little bit harder. That's awesome. Yeah, you can't stop a Ford, and nothing beats a free Ford that actually still runs. Believe it or not, I had no idea if this truck would run when I picked it up. My friendly neighbor gave it to me, and to expedite things, I just winched it up on the old PJ trailer here to get it out of his way. So I'm really surprised and happy that the truck actually runs and the rod bearings aren't knocking like crazy. I think this engine definitely needs some work, but it could make a good runner or a good candidate for a rebuild. If you're interested in seeing more on this truck, I do have a lot more of the dismantling process recorded. I plan to release that at a later date to illustrate in more detail how I'm taking it apart. I wanted to include some of it in this video, but it got a little bit too lengthy because we are dismantling the truck completely and breaking her down into scrap. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me the thumbs up. Leave your questions and comments in that section below, and I'll try my best to answer them. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your way out. Definitely got more videos of this truck coming out, and many other projects along the way as well. Thanks for watching, everyone.